What if a man from the Upper Paleolithic survived until the present day? Welcome to Artificially Literate. This is where books, films, and ideas meet, deep thought and curiosity. Today we're taking a deep dive into a film that is, well, it's pretty much one long, really fascinating conversation, and it challenges, everything we think we know about history, belief, ourselves even, all just from inside a living room. We're talking about The Man from Earth. It's a 2007 science fiction drama written by Jerome Bixby. This film, it doesn't lean on, big special effects or action sequences, not at all. It's all about the sheer power of an idea, just unfolding through arguments, really, between a professor and his colleagues. It's just a fantastic example of how stories can make us reflect, learn, and maybe see the world a little differently. Perfect for what we do here.
Oh, absolutely. It's a total masterclass in intellectual suspense. It takes this premise that sounds, well, almost simple on the surface, but then it just unfolds it layer by layer through how these really smart people react and argue. So our mission today, I guess, is to unpack not just the plot, the narrative, but the really deep philosophical stuff, the real-life implications this story weaves in, often quite subtly. Like, how would we process something like this? What does it do to our sense of reality, history, even death? The film really makes you grapple with all that. The slipperiness of knowledge, maybe, and how uncomfortable it is when beliefs get challenged.
Yeah, exactly. And we start right where the film starts, with that huge question. It just echoes, doesn't it? Makes you rethink time itself. What if a man from the Upper Paleolithic survived until the present day? The genius of The Man from Earth is how it grounds this wild idea right from the start. And something totally ordinary. We open and it's just Professor John Oldman packing up his truck. He's moving. But even there, you feel this quiet mystery. Something's a bit off. It's not just any move. He does this every 10 years or so. It's a pattern. And his friends, they haven't really noticed, or maybe they just haven't put it together yet. So his colleagues show up. It's a great mix. You got Harry, the biologist, Edith, the art historian, who's also very devout, Dan, the anthropologist, Sandy, the historian, who's actually John's girlfriend, archaeologist, Linda, his student, and then later Will Gruber, the psychiatrist. They turn up for this impromptu farewell party. And that's the stage, right? This normal gathering that's about to go completely off the rails.
That scene is so effective.
Yeah.
It sets up this pattern of John always leaving. It hints at the secret without saying anything. He tells them, pretty bluntly actually, doesn't like goodbyes. And by the end, you realize just how much weight that simple phrase carries, like centuries of goodbyes. His friends are obviously a bit put out, He only quit his job a couple of days ago. It's sudden. And that speed, that abruptness, it's a clue to his whole existence, isn't it? This ritual he has to perform. Moving on, before anyone notices he isn't aging. The tension's there already, even though they don't know why. It really shows that isolation, too. Constantly having to cut ties.
Yeah, and the clues keep coming, don't they? Before he even says anything truly outrageous, while they're helping him pack or, unpack his life so he can leave, these little breadcrumbs start appearing. Edith, the art historian, she spots this painting. Her expert eye kicks in immediately. It's almost like the scene is designed to use their specific skills against them later.
Ugh, the Van Gogh. Right, it looks like an original. I even has an inscription to my friend Jacques Bourne in French. And John just brushes it off and, just a gift someone gave me. Way too casual, right? But that name, Jacques Bourne, it's a tiny detail, but it becomes huge later. It's like a little anchor to his past that confirms everything. Edith even points out the stretcher. It says Van Gogh used that kind. It screams authenticity.
And John's just like, nope, just a gift, trying to shut it down.
Exactly. It's classic foreshadowing, dropping these little things that seem maybe eccentric at first, but later you look back and go, oh my God, it was all there. It primes them and us for the big reveal.
And then there's the burren, this little flint tool.
Yeah.
Dan, the anthropologist, he immediately knows what it is.
Yeah.
An early Magdalenian parrot beak burren, Upper Paleolithic. And John, his explanation? Found it in a thrift shop, $5. Harry, the biologist, he jokes, what's a Magdalenian? And Dan explains, later Cro-Magnon, final culture of the Upper Paleolithic. Their academic knowledge is right there, front and center. They're practically setting the stage for him.
That thrift shop story is just, another huge piece of foreshadowing. Almost too neat. A burren, it's a specialized tool for carving bone, antler, essential for survival and art back then. And Dan nailing it as Magdalenian, that culture known for amazing tools, cave paintings. It sets the exact time period.
Right.
He calls them later Cro-Magnons, early modern humans, basically.
Yeah.
Stresses they were just as smart as us. So it's not just some old rock. It connects directly to where John says he's from. This whole discussion, it's like a mini lecture preparing them. Dan even says something like, if stones could talk.
Yeah, little does he know.
Exactly. It frames John's story in their scientific terms. It makes the unbelievable feel, well, maybe not believable yet, but at least grounded in something they understand. It opens the door just a crack.
So John, after they kind of push him a bit, he finally starts. But he frames it cleverly as a hypothetical. What if a man from the Upper Paleolithic survived until the present day? What would he be like? And they bite. They start speculating. Arnold Schwarzenegger, maybe? They talk physiology, Cro-Magnon versus modern human anatomy. They're playing along, treating it like a fun academic exercise, totally unaware. It's such a smart way to ease them in.
Oh, absolutely brilliant. Because they're scientists, right? They want to engage with the hypothetical. It lets them use their expertise without feeling foolish. They humor him. And what's fascinating is how fast they go to the biology of it. Harry, the biologist, he jumps right in, suggesting perfect cellular regeneration. He mentions mesenchymal stem cells from bone marrow.
Right, the stem cells.
Yeah, those are real cells involved in tissue repair. Harry suggests maybe they could, theoretically, allow extreme longevity. He even says the body's designed for like 190 years.
But most of us just die of slow poisoning. Great phrase.
Isn't it? So it provides this little pseudoscientific hook, a possible, however unlikely, mechanism. It makes the impossible seem fractionally less impossible, just enough for John to take the next step.
And that next step is the big one. The pretense just drops. He takes a breath, this little wry smile, and then boom. I had a chance to sail with Columbus, only I'm not the adventurous type. I was pretty sure the Earth was round, but at that point, I still thought he might fall off an edge someplace. And you just see the looks on their faces, the air goes out of the room. Hypothetical just became terrifyingly personal.
That's the pivot. Exactly. He stops with the what if and starts with the I am. I am 14,000 years old. A Cro-Magnon who stopped aging at 35. And that Columbus line, it's delivered so normally, so matter of fact, that's what stuns him. He's not acting crazy.
Art just says, look around, John, we just did. Like processing it.
Yeah, and suddenly that 10-year moving cycle isn't just itchy feet anymore. It's a survival tactic, a necessity to hide who he is. This is where the intellectual game ends and the real gut-wrenching interrogation begins. It challenges everything they know, right down to the nature of reality.
Okay, so John is 14,000 years old. He starts describing that first lifetime, aging normally to about 35, maybe leading his tribe, and then being seen as, like, magical or cursed because he didn't age further, getting driven away.
Yeah.
Harry jumps on that, right? Calls it a possible prehistoric origin of the vampire myth. John just says it was cold back then. He kept getting chased because he wouldn't die. Imagine that being the reason you're an outcast.
It paints such a picture of that early existence. Late Ice Age, nomadic life, just following the herds, the weather, basic survival. And what's amazing is how he connects his memories to things we know now, like seeing Britain from France before the Channel flooded.
Doggerland, right?
Exactly, Doggerland. That kind of detail, his archaeologist and anthropologist friends would catch that immediately. It adds this layer of, well, uncanny credibility. He admits his memory isn't perfect, it's selective. High points, low points, traumas, just like ours, but over millennia.
Which makes him seem more human somehow.
It does. He wasn't sure if he was cursed or perhaps blessed, maybe had a mission. That existential angst right from the start. Being immortal wasn't a gift, it was a problem, a source of fear, both his and others, constant danger, constant loneliness.
So he travels east, following the sun, he says, ends up around the Mediterranean, maybe Bronze Age begins. He becomes Sumerian for 2,000 years. Then Babylonian, serves under Hammurabi, sails with the Phoenicians, just casually dropping these massive historical epochs, learning languages, adapting as humans go from tribes to cities. He mentions having to fake his death sometimes because moving on got harder. Difficult when villages emerged, he says. Tougher still in city-states where authority was centralized.
I mean, just imagine witnessing that sweep of history. From hunter-gatherers to the first cities, the first laws, seeing something like Hammurabi's code being developed. What perspective would that give you on justice, on society? He watched humanity organize itself, build massive things like ziggurats, but that very organization made his life harder. Suddenly there are records, bureaucracy. Strangers are suspicious. You can't just vanish anymore.
Right.
And through all this, he's observing religions pop up. He concludes pretty early that most creation myths, new gods, were probably all hogwash. It's skepticism born from seeing too many different versions firsthand. But he's careful to say his knowledge is limited. One man, one place at a time, my solitary viewpoint. That's key, makes him more believable. He's not claiming to know everything.
And this journey takes him to India. And crucially, he says, he meets Gautama Buddha, calls him the most extraordinary man I've ever known, and learns techniques from him, blocking pain, slowing his body down.
This is such a turning point in his story. It adds this whole spiritual, philosophical layer. He's not just surviving, he's seeking. And he finds something profound with the Buddha. Learning to control his body, block pain. That's not just interesting, it's functional. It explains how he could survive things later, how the resurrection story might have started.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, but it shows him as actively learning, evolving across time. He wasn't born wise. He had to acquire wisdom, which is a really powerful idea about growth, even for an immortal.
But even with all this time, all this experience, he makes it clear he's not omniscient. He says he has 10 degrees, sure. In all their fields, actually, except psychiatry. But he admits, I can't keep up with the new stuff. No one can. Not even in their specialty. His biology degree is from Oxford, 1840.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to keep up with modern genetics based on that.
That really humanizes him, doesn't it? It grounds the whole thing. Infinite time doesn't equal infinite knowledge. He learned as the race learned, he says. Hindered by the slow pace of communication back then, by societal blocks, screams from the church. Even an immortal is limited by the context of the era. And his view of time, like turbulent waves, people rising and falling like ripples in a wheat field.
That's beautiful, but so lonely sounding.
Deeply lonely, detached. He sees humanity making the same stupid mistakes over and over. There's a weariness there, but he never wishes for it to end. Gets bored now and then, he says, which is just remarkably normal in a way.
Okay, we're really just getting into the thick of John's story and how these academics are trying to process it. It's an incredible thought experiment unfolding right there. We're going to take a very short break. Remember, you can find Artificially Literate on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Do follow us if you enjoy these deep dives. We'll be right back with more of The Man from Earth.
It really is a profound look at what it means to be human, seen through this impossibly long lens. History, individual experience, it all gets tangled together. And John's perspective on our relationship with the planet, well, it's based on a very long observation period.
As he puts it, with the kind of authority only 14,000 years could give, I've seen species come and go, depends on their balance with the environment. Wow, this is where the film really pushes the envelope. The conversation turns to religion. John seems reluctant, but they push him. He explains that after learning from Buddha, he thought maybe he could pass those teachings on in a, quote, modern form in the Roman Empire. And that attempt, he claims, became the basis for the story of Jesus. He mentions being Etruscan before that, seeing Rome rise, giving him this unique perspective.
Yeah, this is the flashpoint, where it stops being about history or science and directly confronts deeply held faith, especially for Edith. John explains his name was often John, and maybe through confusion with Hebrew names, Yochanan, Yeshua, it morphed into Jesus in Greek and Latin later on.
It's a linguistic argument almost.
It is, and he describes the crucifixion not as divine, but as using those techniques he learned, blocking the pain, slowing his body down so much everyone thought he was dead, leading to the resurrection belief. And then he says he ascended, meaning he just left, went to Central Europe to get away from the whole thing he'd accidentally started. It's such a provocative idea. It forces you, the viewer, to really examine the roots of belief. Is it fact? Is it story? Is it something that grew over time?
And he's very clear. Denies being the Son of God, denies the miracles like walking on water, raising the dead. Says he just wanted to teach what I learned. Simple human goodness. He blames later interpretations for the mythical overlay, the fairy tales. Laments how concepts like heaven and hell were used to control people. I threw a clean pass, he says. They ran it out of the ballpark. That's such a striking image.
It is.
He even connects the three wise men story back to myths about Buddha's birth, showing how stories borrow and blend.
And Edith is just devastated by this. It shakes her entire foundation. The conversation then spirals into this broader debate about myth-making. Art jumps in, pointing out parallels with older figures like Krishna or Hercules' virgin births, saviors dying and rising, predating Jesus by centuries.
Right.
The film is really digging into how religious narratives evolve, absorb other traditions, maybe lose the original spark along the way. And just to be clear, we're relaying the film's narrative here. It's exploring these sensitive ideas dramatically, not making a statement of fact itself.
Of course.
But Art doesn't hold back, does he? Says the whole Bible is mostly myth and allegory with maybe some historical basis. It forces everyone there and us to think about how belief systems form and change over huge timescales.
Then Dr. Will Gruber, the psychiatrist Art called, steps in. He approaches it clinically, tries to diagnose John. Is it a grave disorder, a
Ugh.
delusion? He says, anyone mentally ill can invent a backstory and believe it completely.
Will brings that necessary psychological angle. He starts probing John about the cost of living so long, the guilt of outliving everyone, survivor's guilt. He even brings up the vampire idea again, unconsciously taking life force. It touches on the deep psychological horror of immortality.
That constant loss.
Constant loss, cycles of connection, and then inevitable detachment. John admits he regrets losing people often, feels something akin to survivor's guilt.
Mm-hmm.
The film really makes you question if living forever is a blessing at all, or just an unbearable burden. Would you really want to do that? It asks.
John also drops details like he doesn't survive the Black Plague, smallpox, more physiological anomalies.
Yeah, little details that just keep stacking up, making the denial harder.
And Will gets increasingly agitated. He demands John admit it's all a lie. He even pulls out a gun, an unloaded one, it turns out. But then Harry reveals why Will is so on edge. His wife, Mary, just died, pancreatic cancer. So Will's grappling with his own intense grief and mortality. John's story, this impossible story of not dying, must feel like a personal affront to him. He desperately needs it to be false.
And under that pressure, that threat, John finally caves, or seems to. He confesses it was all just a story, a game. He says he built it using their own comments. Edith's remark about him not aging, the Van Gogh, Dan's Buren arts book.
Giving them an out.
Exactly, a tactical retreat. It gives them closure, as he puts it, and saves him from being committed, which Will threatened. Some are relieved, others furious. Art storms out, calls him certifiable, but Sandy, his girlfriend, she sees right through it. She knows him better, says he wouldn't abuse their goodwill like that.
Psych 101. No, it's woman one-on-one. Great line.
Isn't it? She tells him they believe you because they have to, meaning they have to believe the hoax because the truth is just too much. It's a really insightful comment on belief and denial.
But the real gut punch, the absolute confirmation, comes right at the very end. Will hangs back as the others leave. And he overhears John telling Sandy some old names he used. John Paley, John Savage, and then John Thomas Partey. Taught chemistry at Harvard 60 years ago.
And that name, combined with John knowing these incredibly specific, intimate details from Will's childhood, his mother's name, Nola, his dog, Woofy, the nickname Chilly Willy,
God.
it clicks for Will. In that horrifying instant, John isn't just some ancient man. John is his father.
The man who left 60 years ago, who watched his mother grow old and die while he stayed the same.
It shatters Will's disbelief completely. The story isn't just real, it's his story, his family, his loss, and the shock that the unbearable weight of that truth triggers a heart attack. He dies right there in his immortal father's arms.
Ultimate tragic proof.
Yeah, it's devastating. The very truth Will fought so hard against is the thing that kills him.
And then Sandy's quiet comment afterwards is just chilling. This is the first time John has seen one of his grown children die.
Ugh, it lands so heavily. All those earlier clues, the Van Gogh, the Buren, they all snap into place. It confirms everything for us and for Sandy.
So John drives off. And Sandy goes with him. She accepts it. Accepts him. Accepts this impossible eternal life he leads.
And we're left with that unsettling reality. He is the man from Earth, a silent witness to everything, carrying this immense burden of loss, now including his own son. It forces us to question everything: time, life, reality, belief. Is immortality a gift? Or is it this profoundly isolating curse? The film doesn't give easy answers.
No, it doesn't. And John's final words in the film, directed at Sandy, but really at us too, just hang in the air, challenging certainty itself. If I said no, could you ever be sure? Hashtag outro. Wow, what an incredible film. A truly deep dive into the man from Earth. It just asks so much, about immortality, history, belief, all from one room. And such a powerful reminder that the biggest stories and those profound effects can come from simple conversation, not just spectacle.
Absolutely. It really pushes you to look at the world differently, question your own assumptions, to appreciate just how complex human experience is, especially stretched over 14,000 years. John's journey becomes this mirror for our own curiosity, our own struggles with the big unknowns.
We really hope you enjoyed exploring this one with us here on Artificially Illiterate. We love digging into stories like this and seeing what meanings we can uncover.
Yeah, definitely check out our other episodes if you liked this. We cover all sorts of literature, film, cultural moments, always something interesting to think about.
And please do follow Artificially Illiterate wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps us keep these conversations going. You won't miss our next deep dive.
Stay tuned for whatever book or film we tackle next. Until then, remember the value of engaging with new ideas, keep learning, Keep questioning.
Feed your brain, starve your inner fool. Thank you for listening to Artificially Literate.